The United States is the biggest terrorist dictatorship in the world, but they have better merch.
America is a dictatorship. You said it supports genocide and terrorism. That's the kind of thing that people are worried about saying right now.
I escaped from a country because I couldn't criticize my government, and now I landed in a country where I can't criticize someone else's government.
You're someone who could be targeted by an authoritarian administration.
The Middle East, all kinds of violations happens, but at least we don't pretend that we are the leaders of the free world.
When they say pro-Palestinian activity, they are admitting, which will be used in a court against them, that this was a speech issue. This is political speech. Being pro-Palestinian is not enough to be deported for.
Donald Trump is not back to rule or to lead. He's coming back to settle scores.
You know, J.D. Vance said this a few years ago in an interview. He said, look, my advice to Trump if he becomes president again is defy the courts and say, what are you going to do about it?
At this point, a ceasefire with Israel is like dating your ex and saying, oh, but this time I think he's changed. No, he hasn't.
I'm Mehdi Hassan.
I am Bassem Youssef.
And we're not kidding. The Zeteo podcast.
We're not.
No,
we're not.
We're not kidding.
We're not. They're kidding.
They're kidding. It's the Zeteo podcast you love, where funny people talk about serious things, but also, I hope, funny things. Bassem Youssef is back. Bassem, how are you?
I'm good, but there's something wrong with your sentence where funny people talk about serious things. You're not funny, Mehdi.
No, I'm not. Well, it's the co-host, right? That's why I'm not doing the podcast on my own, right? I have co-hosts like you and Hassan Minhaj and Rob Delaney and Nick Offerman.
By the way, guys, I was kidding. Mehdi is the funniest guy ever. He has a different persona on TV.
Just depressing.
He is on real life. He is depressingly funny and funnily depressive.
Funnily depressing. People tell me that I'm a killjoy at parties because I'm telling them about the end of America and how fascism's coming and how the country's done and democracy's finished. But before we get to all the good, depressing stuff,
or else also known as America's final season.
America's final finale, which we're living through. And I want to talk to you about that today because it's been a while since we talked. First of all, we're not in person for the first time. Sadly, we're doing this remote. You're in LA, I'm in DC. Even though all our previous shows, we were in London together, we were in Toronto together, we've been in LA together, but here we are separated. So far apart, yet so close.
Well, maybe I'm worried, like taking a plane and come to you, and then I'm gonna be detained for some reason.
Maybe.
Dude, I mean, look at you. You're wearing a T-shirt that says "press." Are you worried about being shot at?
I'm wearing this in the studio. I'll change it when I leave the studio. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this hoodie. We'll talk about this hoodie.
Is that your attire, like outside walking in the United States of America?
I pick and choose which areas. No, I want to talk about this in a moment because there's a serious reason why I bought this. But before we get all serious, Bassem, my grey-haired, grey-bearded friend, happy birthday. I believe it was your birthday.
But 51, it's a very insignificant number. Otherwise, it's just like divided by 3 equals 17. It has absolutely no other significance.
Right. Well, you had the big
or maybe 51, it's Israel, 51st state of the United States of America.
Sorry, now it's Canada. Canada's now going to be the 51st state, according to Donald Trump.
52nd.
52nd, because Israel already is the 51st. So on that note, let's talk about, you and I have spent the last year talking about what's been happening in Gaza. And let's talk about what's happening over here before we get to Gaza, because right now, it's the month of Ramadan. I've been meeting a lot of brown Muslim folks this month. I go to a lot of iftar dinners, and the conversation at each place is super depressing. People are talking about, are you a citizen? Are you a naturalized citizen? Do you have a green card? What visa are you on? Are you worried about traveling? Where's your plan B? Which country are you going to move to? Are you having those conversations in your circles? Are you worried about all the shit that's going down right now?
No, because I am trying to avoid my circles.
You sell out.
Oh, I am, because like I don't. It's very depressing, you know. Like the thing is, okay. Here's the thing, and I think this kind of resonates very much with the current news about Mahmoud Khalil, the guy that was deported.
They're trying to deport him. They haven't deported him yet.
No, it's not deported, but how he was picked by ICE, the thing is, they say the ICE officer showed up and said like, hey, we're revoking your student visa. And then Mahmoud told him, no, I'm not on a student visa. I'm a green card holder and I'm married to the US citizen. So he called his superior. He's very confused. Like, sir, we have a situation. We came here to revoke a visa, but he said that he's a green card and he's married to an American. So after a very long pause on the other side of the phone, the sound's gone, okay, we're revoking that too. And it's like, what? Wait a minute, are you revoking the green card or are you revoking his marriage? You being an ICE agent or are you being a divorce lawyer? What the hell? It's like, okay.
They're just making stuff up.
He is a citizen. We're revoking that too. It's kind of like, what is this cancellation on demand? I mean, even Jehovah's Witness will leave you alone if you are married.
Liking this video? Then don't just watch, hit like, share, and subscribe. And tap the bell so you never miss a video or live show. But if you want early access to exclusive content, then you have to head to zeteo.com and subscribe now. You'll be supporting fearless, independent journalism.
Yeah, there's ICE meets Jehovah's Witnesses. It's my Zeteo colleague, of course, Prem Taka, broke that story that Sunday morning, and it's only gotten worse since then. Of course, Mahmoud Khalil. We had the Lebanese professor from Brown sent back to Beirut because she had pictures of Nasrallah and Khamenei. She had Hezbollah images on her phone, whatever that means. And the poor woman, they opened up her phone, and then she then admitted to going to Nasrallah's funeral, which probably wasn't the wisest move before flying back to Trump's America. But that is where we live right now. You get a visa revoked because of photos on your phone or places you've been. As you say, it's cancellation on demand.
No, here's the thing. Not all photos are created equally. I mean, you could have a photo of yourself being in the Gaza Strip as part of the IDF, wearing lingerie of the women that you killed, and then they can show that on the border on the United States, and no one will bat an eye, will let you in. That's a good photo to have. But a photo at a funeral, no, that's too real.
It's too real. And it's interesting because you mentioned kind of green card naturalized citizens. You and I, we've talked about this before when we were in London. You and I are both, drum roll, shock horror, naturalized citizens of the United States of America. You moved from Egypt and became a citizen, and I moved from the UK and became a citizen. Are you worried about naturalized citizenship? Because a lot of the experts are saying if they can do this to green card holders, inevitably next will be naturalized citizens.
Well, maybe it really depends on the fact, like they would decide, are you natural enough to be American? Are you natural? Because we have naturalized you. I don't think the process have worked. You're not gluten-free enough for us. The fact that like it's like now they can show on your doorstep like Bible preachers, like said, like, have you found Jesus? Like, hi sir, have you considered losing your entire legal status today?
I'm going to ask you this. I mean, you are from Egypt, right? Where President Sisi, Donald Trump's favorite dictator, to quote Donald Trump, has locked up, I think, 40,000 political prisoners. When you come from the Arab world, from dictatorships in the Arab world, and then you see what's happening in the US. People talked about Trump derangement syndrome. People told me I was being hyperbolic last year when I warned about fascism. Masked agents turning up in Arlington, Virginia, and picking up this guy from Georgetown, this Indian scholar, taking him, not identifying themselves. What does that look like other than a kind of foreign dictatorship? Isn't that what US is becoming now?
No, here's the thing. Like, I mean, in the Middle East, all kinds of violations happens, but at least we don't pretend that we are the leaders of the free world.
So
and I think like I think like people in the Middle East are much more in line with what they believe and they practice. It's just a hypocrisy here. It's just like that's why I say that the United States is the biggest terrorist dictatorship in the world, but they have better merch. They just have better PR. It's just like that. It's the way that they do it, right? They support genocide and they sponsor genocide and they do deportation, and they just still can claim that they are the leaders of the free world. It's just like the hypocrisy kills me, right? And I'm kind of like, for me personally, I think I'm running out of countries. I just like, I mean, like I escaped from a country because I couldn't criticize my government, and now I landed in a country where I can't criticize someone else's government, which is very confusing.
Yeah.
So basically, people who came from different parts of the world, they would realize that they didn't really escape dictatorships. They just changed time zones. And we basically, all of us are running out of countries, and we are basically fugitives with frequent flyer miles. So I think this is where we are in the world right now.
And when I talk to Muslims, Bassem, all I hear from people is like, what's your plan B? Where are you going to move to? You're going to move to Dubai? You're going to move to Malaysia? You're going to move to Turkey? You're going to move to Canada? And there's a lot of people who are like, if you're going to live in a dictatorship, I want to live in a Muslim one with halal food, right? At least if you're going to live, why live in an orange dictatorship? I mean, you just said America is a dictatorship. You said it supports genocide and terrorism. That's the kind of thing that people are worried about saying right now, because Trump is using this vague 1952 law against green card holders, saying, if you're against the foreign policy of the United States, if you have, what's the phrase? I wrote it down. Serious adverse foreign policy consequences. That's what they've used against Mahmoud Khalil. That is chilling people's speech. As you say, you got in trouble in Egypt for speaking out against various factions. And now in the US, there is a chilling effect. People are self-censoring right now. Comedians, lawyers, journalists, politicians. That's the road we're on right now.
You know what really actually bothers me about this is the level of pettiness. You know, like we can talk for hours about like how, but it's just the pettiness. Like when Mahmoud Khalil, he was like detained, like the official page of the White House puts like Shalom Mahmoud. It's just like, it's like a reality TV, and you're being kicked out of Love Island, and the White House is like, bye, bitch. Yeah. It's just the level of pettiness.
Why does that surprise you, Bassem? Look who the president is. Look who the president is. A man who was only good at one thing in his life, was doing this Apprentice, right? It's the only thing he's ever done well.
No, but here's the thing. We always, even in the Trump presidency, I guess, we had this thing about like, oh, Trump is the rogue one, and everybody is trying to call him down. This presidency is different. The rest of the administration has this kind of like bitch vibe. It's kind of the Real Housewives of DC. It's just like they are the level of pettiness. You just like the other day, like there was like a freaking group chat about like, how can we bomb Yemen? The whole administration is crazy. It's like the wife said, hey, bitch, please. And then Zelensky comes like, how come you don't wear your suit? Like the guy wakes up in the morning and he said, fuck Canada. Who says that? It's just like, you know, you should be like, you know, fighting with Putin, not Putin. And
but you're a comedian though, Bassem. So for you, this is as if an administration is filled with people who are not serious people, right? Like Pete Hegseth, who's on the group chat, this Signal group chat with the Atlantic magazine's editor. Pete Hegseth is a former Fox and Friends weekend host accused of being a drunk.
Mehdi.
RFK Jr., not a serious figure.
Mehdi. Donald Trump is not back to rule or to lead. He's coming back to settle scores. He wakes up in the morning and he says, okay, so what is the thing that liberals more love? Okay, education, books. Cancel the Department of Education. And it's like, what? What is that? When you cancel the Department of Education, it's like, oh, maybe I'm teaching you a lesson. You know, it seems like even ISIS is like, Trump, Habibi, this is too much. I mean, like, you know, I know that we were saying this to America, but this was only talk. This is the only speech, you know.
He's doing
we were
it.
saying it. Trump is doing it. You are in a bad position when your enemies are like, guys, are you okay? It's like, what's happening there?
I mean, it is crazy because when we talk about fascism and dictatorship, you look at a CC, you look at an Orban or a Putin or an MBS. I wonder what they're thinking of Trump. Because like he's doing repressive stuff, but as you say, he's doing it in this incompetent way with the Signal chats and the kind of reality TV show, the way he picks fights with the Canadians and with the Ukrainians, and the people he's appointing are he just made his lawyer, his failed lawyer who couldn't help him when he was losing cases. She's a former car park lawyer, parking garage lawyer. He's just made her the interim attorney for New Jersey. Like the whole thing is like a troll. He's just trolling everyone.
I think he's trolling everyone. I think look at his choice of his religious advisor. You know, that woman, what's her name? Paula White.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God. Like, I mean, this is the level. I think he is trolling the whole system. Okay, I'm going to get the most comical person to be my religious advisor. I'm going to get the most incompetent to put him on a defense. I think either Trump is an evil genius who, in order to make a point, he is trying to make a fool out of America for maybe not being loved during his childhood. I don't know. But the thing is the level of troll, because there is competent people out there and there are good people out there. Even on the most far right of the Republican right, they are people who are good at their jobs. But he's choosing... Yeah. Always, he's the most controversial, the most crass.
He just appointed as ambassador to South Africa, Brent Bozell, a conservative activist who once referred to Barack Obama, I think, as a skinny ghetto crackhead. He's sending him to be the ambassador to post-apartheid South Africa. He kicked out the South African ambassador, a Muslim man named Ibrahim Rasool, who I've interviewed and I know. He kicked him out because he apparently called him a white supremacist or leader of a white supremacist movement. So, as you say, have you heard the phrase kakistocracy, Bassem? It's ruled by the worst people. Kakistocracy.
Oh, wait. You know what this remind me with? What you just have said? You know, like, I accuse you of being a white supremacist, so you prove my point by kicking me out and doing something that a white supremacist does. This is exactly like extreme jihadists or extreme Islamists or extreme Christians or extreme Jews, whatever, when they say, like, our religion is a religion of peace. It's like, no, it's not. All right, I'm going to fucking kill you. It's just like the same thing.
Yeah.
The same energy. I'm going to actually prove everything that I said about you by penalizing you for saying it.
And they keep saying it out loud, Bassem. So when we go back to the Mahmoud Khalil story, like, their incompetence is actually helping us, because they could have dressed up, they could have invented this entire kind of Hamas narrative. Instead, I want to play this clip to you. I don't know if you heard, on March 13th, the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Troy Edgar, he did an interview with NPR's Michelle Martin, and he was asked about the detention of Khalil. Have a listen to this.
When you apply for a visa, you go through the process to be able to say that, you're here on a student visa. It doesn't afford you all the rights of coming in and basically going through this process, agitating and supporting Hamas. So at this point, the Secretary of State and the State Department maintains the right to revoke the visa, and that's what they've done.
So how did he support Hamas? Exactly what did he do?
Well, I think you could see it on TV, right? It's this is somebody that we've invited and allowed the student to come into the country, and he's put himself in the middle of the process of basically pro-Palestinian activity.
He put himself in the middle of pro-Palestinian activity, not Hamas, not terrorism. They just said it out loud. He's pro-Palestinian. That's a crime.
I'm sorry, man. Like I say, I have a problem with how we analyze political speech right now, because the biggest problem is that you take them seriously. Whatever you just heard, that clip that you heard, is a prime example of the same media and propaganda communication that even Israel is doing. Facts don't matter. Because he's really not talking to you. He's talking to the masses. And the masses, what they heard is support Hamas. He's a student. You can see it on TV. Whatever that other person said, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Same thing when Israel bombs a residential place. It's like Hamas, headquarters, tunnels, terrorists, collateral damage.
Tick, tick, tick.
It is really, these are dog whistles for the masses in order to just avert on the situation. When you talk to Piers Morgan, Human Shields, Hamas led the health authority, do you condemn Hamas? They are terrorists defending the self. October 7th, October 7th, October 7th, October 7th. Right? So this is the crux of political speech. You are basically, they are making you chase your tail by disproving them, or like, oh, look at this, he makes up. That is not, it doesn't matter really.
So I half agree with you, Bassem. I think you're 100% right on the messaging propaganda front. The thing is, the only thing stopping the Trump administration now is court cases, are judges, are lawyers. And on the legal front, they keep screwing themselves over. So when they say pro-Palestinian activity, they are admitting, which will be used in a court against them, that this was a speech issue. This is political speech. Being pro-Palestinian is not enough to be deported for, right? So when they say this stuff, for example, you mentioned the group chat. I don't know if you saw, they keep saying, well, there was no classified information on the group chat. Which means, hold on, that means Jeffrey Goldberg, the reporter who was on the group chat, can now release the whole conversation because they're saying it's not classified. So they keep saying things which undermine their legal case. I agree with you. For their base, for messaging, they're doing whatever needs to be done. But legally, they keep shooting themselves in the foot by offering defenses that don't work in court.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Legally, all right? So everything legally in Mahmoud's case totally nullifies any action that's taken by the Trump administration, and yet they did it.
Well, they used an obscure law from 1952 that some people believe is unconstitutional.
All right, tomorrow, Mahmoud Khalil will be taken to a plane, deported.
Yeah.
And then you will have 20 federal court telling you cannot do that.
Like with El Salvador.
Anyway, but he did it anyways. The question is, Mehdi, what prevents them?
Yes, I agree with you. Nothing prevents them. That's what we're discovering about the American political system is it was not built for a Trump. It was built on norms and traditions and people not abusing their power. And unfortunately, J.D. Vance said this a few years ago in an interview. He said, look, my advice to Trump if he becomes president again is defy the courts and say, what are you going to do about it? Who's going to stop me? And they know that. And Steve Bannon and others are encouraging them. That's the moment, I think, to go back to your point about, democracy, dictatorship, that moment where they've already defied 2 lower court orders. They sent the people to El Salvador when they were told not to. But if they defy a Supreme Court order, I think we all know that is a moment where even the most skeptical people will have to admit, what is left of American democracy? And I think that moment's coming pretty soon. Don't you agree? We are heading for that moment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, there's no limit to the power.
So hold on, where does that leave you then, Bassem? To go back to my earlier question, you can avoid hanging out with brown people all you want, but you are an Arab American comedian who criticizes Israel and Trump, and you're saying, as I'm saying, that this country.
Are you telling on me, man? Are you blowing the whistle?
I am. There's a tape record. We're not taping this at all. But you're someone who could, God forbid, be targeted by an authoritarian administration.
I really don't know what to do. Really, I mean, I'm living my life as it is. I'm trying to live. I'm trying to put it on the back of my mind because I really don't know how to deal with that kind of stress. And honestly, lately, and I'm sure that you've noticed, I hardly tweet anything.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about anything. This is very, very depressing.
Is that because you're depressed or demoralized, or is that because you're self-censoring?
No, not self-censoring at all.
You just want to avoid that morass.
By the way, I stopped tweeting a lot even before Trump became president.
Yeah.
I don't see the point. And we had this talk about being kind of losing hope and depressed, but the only way I can do it is just to go out and make fun of it.
Yeah.
Right. And until that stops or that being interrupted, I really don't know what else I can do.
I mean, look, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. The reason this crackdown is happening, and you said it in passing earlier, you said you moved from a country where you couldn't criticize your own government to a country where you can't criticize a foreign government. And we are in that weird situation where if you're a student at Harvard, for example, right now, Harvard University has agreed to use the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, which means that if you're a student at Harvard, you can say America was born out of racism, but you can't say Israel was born out of racism, right? This is the weird country we live in right now, where a foreign government is more protection than a domestic government. This administration is going out of its way. Some Muslims thought that Trump would be better than Biden. I laugh out loud at that. This administration is going out of its way to give Israel cover as it resumes its genocidal war. You and I talked in London about the ceasefire, about the prospect of a ceasefire. When you see what happened in Gaza just days ago, 750 people killed in 72 hours, 200 children killed in a night. As someone who's been following this, arguing about this, talking about this since the beginning, what was going through your head last week when you saw those reports coming out of Gaza?
I mean, again, they can. There's no checks and balances with Israel anymore. I mean, Israel broke the truce. Again, big news. I mean, at this point, a ceasefire with Israel is like dating your ex and saying, "Oh, but this time I think he's changed." No, he hasn't. Israel treats truces like the way a gym membership, they sign up, never commit, always ends up blaming the other side for not losing weight. It's the same thing. They have broken this ceasefire 100 times. And it's kind of basically this is Israel taking smoke breaks between airstrikes. That's basically it. That's the whole thing.
What's so depressing is they make it very, very clear in Israeli media, on Israeli television, that's what's going on. It's American and British television, it's the BBC, the CNNs, the New York Times that run cover for them. When you look at what they're saying, I mean, somebody said recently the translate button on Twitter has opened people's eyes to the genocidal discourse in Israeli society. I mean, I think we have the clip of Israel Katz, the Israeli defense minister, making an explicitly genocidal threat to the people of Gaza.
Unless all the Israeli hostages are released and Hamas is expelled from Gaza, Israel will act with forces never before seen. Take the U.S. president's advice. Return the hostages and expel Hamas, and other options will be presented to you, including relocating to other places in the world for those who wish. The alternative is utter destruction and devastation.
The alternative is utter destruction and devastation, right? So you have people in the West going, how dare you say Israel's genocidal? And then you have Israeli ministers saying, hey, I'm going to make another genocidal speech on camera.
Is that something new? How many genocidal statements came out of Israel, and people talk about it, and then
they're not stopping.
Again, Habibi, it is like this is the word. Listen, I think we really need to wake up that the brutal imperialistic colonial world never went away. And the honeymoon that we had after Second World War, thinking that there is something as international law
Yes.
or the Geneva Conventions or the whatever treaties and human rights declaration doesn't really apply for. They never applied, and then we thought that it would, but it never did. You understand that those people that they have the military power, like America on a global level and Israel on a regional level, this bigger empire and smaller empire, or smaller like dog empire, they possess weapons of destruction that we have never seen throughout history. I think these people are in a way was like, we have all the power. Why should any laws apply to us? America said it openly, like ICC. I'm going to invade the ICC if you did anything to us or Israel. So the fact is, like, these people are talking from a point of power. They don't care about the tweets and the reports and the thing. It's just like you are now in a very new age of just brutal, unmatched power. And I think it's just like the veil has been removed from that facade of civility and modernization. I think we're heading into a very, very, very dark place.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Naomi Klein recently on our show Unshocked, and she was making the point that this is the mafia-like approach to the world, right? This is the mafia polar world. It's not a multipolar world. Trump sees the world as kind of strong men. Him and Netanyahu and Milei and Putin and Orban and MBS, Modi. That's how he sees the world. As you say, that honeymoon period of the international liberal order does seem to be very much over when these guys are in charge. And it's a very transactional world. It's a brutal world. It's a world based on just power, as you say. And the Israelis are very much part of that. Interestingly, on the Trump front, I mean, if that's the argument, right, that you're making, then what happens to Gaza? Do you believe that the Israelis will get their way and their people will be ethnically cleansed and this will be the Riviera and Trump's Gaza?
I said this many times, and people said I was exaggerating. I said it on many of my interviews, and I said, like, Israel will get what they want because there is no one to check their power, and America is behind them 100%. I mean, I think America is even ahead of them. They turned Gaza into a living hell. They're turning, and I said that on Piers Morgan the second time. It's like tomorrow they're going to push people into Gaza, and they will push the West back into Jordan, and then they will push the people of Gaza and Sinai into Egypt. The same thing, piecemeal. National security threat, defending ourselves, and it just takes like one bomb, one bullet, one missile to go in and just like invade everybody. They will do that. And they have been doing that over the years. We're just seeing that in the acceleration because, as I said, it is unprecedented power, unprecedented support. So basically, they are the little dog with the superpower abilities, and no one is there to stop them. Right now, America is amassing the biggest military campaign in the Red Sea since the Iraq invasion. You've seen the movements of the Iraq.
Yeah.
All that to crush the Yemenis, the Houthis, who are in military power level. They are kind of like still in the cave age, or in the Stone Age compared to the military power of Israel. And yet they're going there with all of their might. And this is the unchecked power, guys. And who's going to stop them? Russia, who are being exhausted in Ukraine. China, who doesn't want to go into any kind of like confrontation. Iran, who's basically, we see it being clipped right in front of us. Hezbollah, Syria, whatever, and it's going to be the Houthis, and then they're going to do it Iran, and then you don't know when. So it's basically...
They're doing it with Trump's blessing, right? And when you mentioned the Houthi campaign, right? And it being a very big campaign. You mentioned Golan Heights. We've talked about the Israel genocide resuming with record numbers of kids killed. What do you say to some of our fellow Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, brown folks who were adamant that Donald Trump would be better for the Middle East than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? that actually he might restrain Israel because he doesn't like Netanyahu. I was told all sorts of things about Donald Trump would be tougher. He's anti-war. He's America first. What do you make of that when you look at the record right now?
I really think that both of them is basically death by poison or a gunshot. Seriously, I mean,
you didn't have high hopes for either side. You were not someone saying Trump would be better.
I mean, it is one of them. Like we have seen what the Biden administration did, and Kamala Harris is kind of allowing them to do it with an occasional step of theirs. But let me know, did the Biden administration even stop one arms shipment? They didn't.
Well, they paused the 2,000-pound bombs, of course, that was it, which Trump then released.
You see, tomato,
yes.
you know.
Well, let me Bassem, let me play a clip to you of Ohad Tal, who is a Knesset member in Israel. He's a member of Bezalel Smotrich religious Zionism party, the far-right party in Israel. He was interviewed by Channel 4 News by Sikander Kamani. Have a listen to this exchange.
A year and a half of very intense war with a lot of civilian casualties in Gaza shows that it's not possible to militarily alone defeat Hamas.
A year and a half under the Biden administration that forced us to fight Hamas with one hand, but to feed them with the other. So I can tell you that now the war is going to be handled in a totally different way. With the Trump administration, with the backing of America, Trump himself said numerous times that all hell should break on Gaza if they're not bringing back all hostages.
What does unleashing hell look like? I mean, you've already seen under, as you say, the Biden administration, daily death tolls of around 400 people a day.
You will see exactly what it means.
From the horse's mouth there, you have Israeli politicians openly saying that Biden, who, as you and I have discussed, gave Israel complete and utter support, all the weaponry and money they wanted. That wasn't enough. He made us, what's the line he said? He forced us to fight Hamas with one hand, but feed them with the other. It's going to be different under Trump. I mean, that's from the Israelis themselves.
I cannot blame anybody for voting for Trump, for not voting or voting for I just like it's much easier for us to realize that both administration are just giving Israel everything that they wanted, but with different speeds. That's the whole thing. That's the only reason. But it's going to happen sooner or later, and I don't know if it should happen sooner or later, or whatever. But really, it's the same policy. And whatever is Trump doing now, it happened because of the lubrication that the Biden administration gave for a year and a half.
Fair.
You have this statement from an Israeli government official, but we forget about the other statement that was done by American officials, like Brian Mast, who said like there's no innocent children in Gaza. You know, it's the same thing. So I really don't know why I was still blown away with this, because
I'm not blown away. I actually predicted that this would happen under Trump, unfortunately. But look, you're always telling me I'm depressing, right? So let's try and have some positivity. Let's try and look for some hope. According to Gallup, Bassem, I don't know if you've seen this poll, which has been tracking American sympathies towards Israel and Palestine since 2001. Sympathy towards Israel has hit an all-time low. 46%, less than half of Americans, have sympathy towards Israel, compared to an all-time high of sympathy towards the Palestinians. 1 in 3 Americans, 33%. And you've got a lot of people on the right, people I don't like, but people on the right like the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens, people I have no time for, but they're out there vaguely criticizing Israel, or at least prioritizing of Israel over America. You have people on the left, of course, consistently criticizing Israel. Do you see a change happening, Bassem, in the political media culture towards Israel? Are you seeing this change, that actually ordinary Americans are less sympathetic towards Israel?
Again, like there has been and always been a huge separation between the public and the media and the political elite. We have seen during the Iraq War, we didn't see any respectful person or even media think other than they have like opposed the Iraq War. We had like mass demonstration, and then America did whatever they wanted to do. You have now these percentages of dissent and an opposition to Israel is not reflected in the media, because the coverage of the media has been 100% or mostly pro-Israel. I mean, remember when everybody was so excited about the university protests?
Yeah.
How is it happening right now? Everyone is penalized. Basically, they are punishing everybody and making an example out of them.
Bassem, I tried to be hopeful and you just depressed me again.
Exactly, I did.
Apparently, I'm the depressing person, am I? I'm the depressing person, am I? I come here, I give you a
reversal,
poll,
baby.
And you're like, it's all
I gave you hope. I give you hope, and I'm just telling you. Seriously, look what happens to the college people. They have absolutely no place for in the place of in the work market. They've been blacklisted. They have been expelled. So anybody who would think about doing that again, they know they have seen the flying wolf head, or I don't know how you call it. It's like we say it in Arabic. I don't know if that translates in English.
I don't know what that means. Flying wolf heads.
When we say, like, basically it's the same when you say like flying wood heads, with like when you cut the wolf head,
okay,
so the rest of the pack sees
I
that.
see.
Flying, so they get scared.
Got it.
So like a flying. So basically, they have decapitated the resistance. They showed you what they do. A freshman going into college, you say like, no, I'm not gonna go into this.
I'm not as pessimistic as you. I am quite pessimistic about a lot of things, but I don't think they've silenced the resistance. I think there are a lot of people still speaking out, still risking their jobs, careers, livelihoods. And actually, by the way, let's just on this moment, let's talk about the Palestinians who are really taking the brunt of this, not people in US media or college campuses. You asked me why I'm wearing this hoodie today, which I got from Wear the Peace, and I love this hoodie. And I'm wearing it because Israel just killed 2 journalists, Hossam Shabat and Mohammed Mansour, deliberately killed them. Not an accident. They proudly take pleasure in killing them and saying, we killed them, they're terrorists. Hossam Shabat, 23 years old. Bassem, you know him, you saw him online, young kid. After October 7th, decided to try and report on what was happening to his people. I didn't know him that well. I knew him from DMs. I chatted to him online. My friends at Dropsite News had hired him to do reporting for Dropsite. And his Twitter account published his own obituary, which he wrote. He wrote his own obit, which was published on his Twitter account, killed just a few days ago. And I just keep thinking to myself that there are heroes in the world today, and the Palestinian journalists, more than 200 of whom have been killed since October 7th, are surely amongst them. And the people in the Western media, my colleagues in the US and UK media who I've worked with, who have stayed silent, I mean, shameful. There's no other. I don't know what words there are for people who stay silent when journalists are being killed. And those are the kind of people who, yes, you're right, it's depressing, but they do help me keep hope alive. I don't know about you, but it helps me keep hope alive to see people are literally doing whatever it takes to keep that story out there.
Well, I have hope in comedy, at least, like whether as not as a medicine, because I don't think comedy is a medicine. I think comedy is a painkiller. It kind of makes you cope with this in a better way, but it's because it doesn't change anything. That's why it's not a medicine. So I'm kind of like making hope. Maybe comedy will save us, or be the last painkiller we get before we get killed ourselves.
You have been trying out new routines, you were telling me before we started taping. What are you up to these days in the comedy world? Where can people see you? Where can they hear you? What are you up to?
So I have been struggling a lot for the past 2 years of what is next, because I've been doing my touring with my special, The Middle Beast. You have attended it in DC. And I've been always struggling with like, what will be my next special? What will be my next story? What will be my next act? Which is something that a lot of comedians struggle with. And I felt that, and it was very humbling, very humiliating, even to kind of like, you don't want to go back and bomb in a club where you were like having like a great time with 3,000 people in a theater. So, but it's kind of a mental thing that you need to do. So I go in rooms with like 10 people, 20 people, half empty club. I go and I bomb, and I go many times a night. And I bomb or I do better, but like I feel myself getting better, and I'm being inspired.
How is that experience for your ego?
Oh, it's very humbling, I said, and it's a great ego check, and and even like, you know, I've been doing really well in the past 4 days, and then I got a little cocky, and then the 5th day I really bombed bad. But it is a very interesting and a beautiful experience, really, and it gives you something to look up for, to do that 15 minutes. It's crazy how your whole day revolves around those 15 minutes and trying to do it different ways, and you think about it.
Are you tempted to riff off of the news, because the news is so insane? You mentioned earlier in the show, like the Signal group, these defense officials discussing bombing Yemen with a journalist on Signal. That's the kind of stuff out of Veep, right? That's the kind of stuff out of political comedy shows. How tempting is it to look at the Trump shit show and say, I can make fun of that on stage?
Of course you can. But like, here's the thing about comedy. comedy. It's a very different experience to go to the daily comedy clubs of New York or LA, or the Cellar or the Laugh Factory, or you're doing an hour special to an audience of a theater, because now you're doing a more performer. So I have the time in order to bring them in, to give them the news and then comment on it. They have that kind of time. But 15 minutes, you don't want to bear gas into, so it will have to be something that everybody knows, or you find a way that you go into the story very quickly, because that would be a 3-minute bit out of your 15 minutes.
Well, I love the Middle Beast tour, and I look forward to your the new version that's honed by bombing in LA. I look forward to seeing it. It'll be brilliant, I'm sure. Bassem, it's always a pleasure. To all of you watching at home, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to remind you all to make sure that you like and subscribe this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Head over to zeteo.com, become a subscriber as we approach our first anniversary, so you can get episodes of We're Not Kidding as soon as they drop and hear Bassem before anyone else. For now, though, I'm Mehdi Hassan.
I am Bassem Youssef.
And we were not kidding. We're Not Kidding is a Zeteo production. I'm your host, Mehdi Hassan, and today's co-host was Bassem Youssef. Our executive producer is Kieran Alvey. Our senior producer and editor is Frank Capello. Our music was composed by Andy Clausen. Our design is by Alicia Tetone. Our mix engineer is Valentino Rivera. And the title card animation is by Ehsan Mezgali.